The movie kicks off with a woman named Grace. She wakes up gasping and screaming in the middle of the night from a horrific nightmare. She lives in a massive Gothic mansion located in a remote, permanently foggy island in England. She is completely alone with her two young children, Anne and Nicholas, because her husband Charles went missing in World War II and never returned. Right off the bat, we learn about a terrifying condition. Both of her children suffer from a rare disease where they are deadly allergic to light. If even a tiny bit of sunlight touches their skin, they will break out in blisters and die. Because of this, Grace runs the house like a prison with 3 strict rules. First, no door must ever be opened before the previous one is locked behind them. Second, the house must always remain in pitch blackness. And third, the heavy velvet curtains must always be drawn shut. Suddenly, 3 mysterious people, an old lady named Mrs. Mills, an old gardener named Mr. Tuttle, and a mute girl named Lydia, walk out of the thick fog and knock on her door, looking for work. Grace decides to hire them on the spot, explaining the strict rules of the darkness.
As the new servants start working, strange and creepy events begin to plague the mansion. Little Anne, who is a bit stubborn, tells her mother that she keeps seeing a young boy named Victor in the house. She claims Victor told her that this mansion belongs to his family now. Anne also says there is an old lady and a crying woman wandering around the empty rooms. Grace gets absolutely furious, thinking Anne is just making up 6 stories to terrify her younger brother Nicholas, who is already scared of the dark. Grace punishes Anne, making her read the Bible. However, that very night, when Grace is completely alone in the hallway, she hears heavy, dragging footsteps coming from the floor above. She rushes upstairs, unlocking door after door, but every room is completely empty. Then, out of nowhere, a piano inside a locked room starts playing a creepy melody all by itself. Grace is left paralyzed with fear, realizing that her daughter might not be lying after all.
The situation goes from creepy to life-threatening one afternoon. Grace goes into the children's study room to check on them, but as soon as she opens the door, a nightmare unfolds. Every single heavy velvet curtain in the room has been completely ripped away and stolen. Bright, piercing sunlight is pouring through the massive windows. The kids are trapped in the light, screaming in absolute agony as the sun burns them, scrambling under tables to save themselves. Panicking and crying, Grace runs through the room, dragging the kids out of the light and hiding them under thick blankets just in time to save their lives. She is convinced that the new servants did this on purpose to murder her children. She grabs her shotgun, storms into the garden, and banishes Mrs. Mills and the others from the property, screaming at them to never come back.
That night, the fog grows thicker than ever. Anne and Nicholas, terrified that their mother is losing her mind, decide to escape through the window to look for their father's military camp. As they stumble through the cold, misty garden, Nicholas trips over something stone-hard hidden under the overgrown weeds. They clear the dirt and find a hidden, private graveyard. To their absolute horror, they find 3 headstones with the names and faces of Mrs. Mills, Mr. Tuttle, and Lydia. The graves state that they all died in 1891, more than 50 years ago, from a deadly plague. At the exact same moment inside the house, Grace is searching the servants' old quarters and finds an ancient, creepy photograph album. She flips the pages and gasps in horror as she sees a post-mortem photograph of the exact same 3 servants lying dead in their coffins. Suddenly, the 3 ghost servants appear out of the fog, surrounding the children in the garden.
The terrified children scream and sprint back into the mansion, slamming the heavy doors behind them. They sprint upstairs and lock themselves inside a dark closet. But as they turn around, the creepy blind old lady that Anne saw earlier is standing right there in the shadows. The scene suddenly cuts away to a completely different perspective, shocking the audience. We see a brightly lit room with a group of normal, living people sitting around a circular table. In the center is the blind old woman who is actually a spiritual medium heeding a seance. Sitting next to her are a husband and wife who recently bought this mansion, and they are terrified because they think the house is haunted by aggressive spirits. The medium asks the spirits why they are making noise. Suddenly, the scene splits, and we see Grace and her kids in the exact same room, screaming at the top of their lungs, ripping the papers off the table, trying to punch the living people to prove that they are the ones who own the house and that they are alive.
This is where the movie drops one of the greatest plot twists in cinema history. As Grace and the kids break down crying, the reality hits them like a train. They are the ghosts, and the people at the table are the living human beings. Mrs. Mills walks into the room calmly and explains the heartbreaking truth to Grace. A year ago, overwhelmed by intense loneliness, grief, and losing her sanity while waiting for her husband, Grace completely lost her mind. In a fit of madness, she took a pillow and suffocated both Anne and Nicholas to death in their beds. Realizing what she had done, a traumatized Grace then pointed the shotgun at her own head and pulled the trigger. When they woke up as spirits, the trauma was so severe that their minds blocked out the horrific memory, making them believe they were still alive and the kids still had the sun disease. Finally accepting the tragic truth, Grace and her children hold each other tightly. They watch the living family pack up their bags in terror and drive away, abandoning the mansion forever. Grace hugs her kids and whispers that no one can ever take this house from them, as they belong to the mansion now. The camera slowly moves away from the window and the screen fades to black.